The rain started before the argument. It tapped softly against the windows at first, polite, almost hesitant, like it didn't want to interrupt the silence inside the house. Sarah Mitchell stood at the kitchen counter, her fingers wrapped around a mug that had long gone cold. The clock on the wall ticked louder than usual. Or maybe everything just felt louder when something was about to break. David was late. Again. She didn't check her phone this time. No messages. No explanations. That had become normal. What wasn't normal was the feeling in her chest, a tight, quiet pressure that had been building for weeks, maybe longer. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even fear. It was certainty. The front door opened. Sarah didn't turn right away. She listened first. His footsteps were slower than usual, measured. No briefcase drop. No call from the hallway. Just silence stretching between them like a wire pulled too tight. "Dinner's cold," she said, keeping her voice even. David stepped into the kitchen. "I'm not hungry." That was new. She turned then. He looked the same coat, same expression, but something in his eyes had shifted. Detached. Distant. Like he was already somewhere else. "Long day?" she asked. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and placed it on the counter. Face down. Deliberate. "Sit down, Sarah." Her grip tightened slightly around the mug. "I'm fine standing." He exhaled, a short, controlled breath. This isn't going to be a long conversation. A pause. Then she set the mug down. "Okay," she said. David ran a hand through his hair, not nervously, just impatiently, like he wanted to get through something inconvenient. "I've been seeing someone." The words landed clean. No hesitation. No apology. Sarah blinked once. The rain outside grew louder, pressing against the windows now. "How long?" she asked. "A while." That's not an answer. He met her eyes. Long enough. Something inside her shifted, but it didn't collapse. Not yet. Who is she? That doesn't matter. It matters to me. It shouldn't. The finality in his tone settled between them. Cold. Unmovable. Sarah nodded slowly, absorbing it piece by piece. "So what is this?" she asked. "A confession? Or a goodbye?" David leaned back slightly against the counter, arms crossing. "It's a transition." She almost laughed, but didn't. "A transition," she repeated. "Yes." "From what to what, exactly?" "From this, to something else." He gestured vaguely around the kitchen, as if their entire life could be summarized with a flick of his hand. Sarah followed the motion. The table. The chairs. The framed photo by the wall, her smiling beside him, taken on a day that now felt like it belonged to someone else. "This isn't just this, David," she said quietly. "It is to me." The words were sharp, but not loud. That made them worse. She held his gaze. "So that's it? You just walk away?" "I'm not walking away," he replied. "I'm moving forward." "And I'm what? Standing still?" He didn't answer. That was answer enough. Sarah inhaled slowly, steadying herself. "Where am I supposed to go?" David pushed himself off the counter and walked past her toward the hallway. "I packed a bag." She turned sharply. "You packed a bag?" "It's in the living room." "For me?" "Yes." The simplicity of it cut deeper than any raised voice could have. She followed him, her footsteps slower now, as if each step was negotiating with reality. The suitcase sat by the couch. Small. Too small. "You decided all this on your own," she said. "It didn't require a committee." Her jaw tightened. "We're married." "We were functional," he corrected. The word lingered in the air. Functional. Like a machine. Like something that worked until it didn't. Sarah walked over to the suitcase and opened it. A few clothes. Essentials. Nothing personal. Nothing meaningful. No photos. No memories. Just enough to leave. You planned this, she said. Yes. For how long? David didn't hesitate. Long enough to know it's the right decision. She closed the suitcase gently. And what about me, she asked. Did I factor into that decision at all? He looked at her, not unkindly, but not kindly either. Just neutral. You'll figure something out. The phrase echoed in her mind. You'll figure something out. As if she were a problem to be solved. As if her entire existence could be reduced to an inconvenience with a solution. Sarah straightened. I don't have access to the accounts, she said. I've handled the finances, he replied. That's not what I asked. You'll be fine. I won't, she said, her voice firmer now. Not like this. David checked his watch. I have somewhere to be. The dismissal was complete. Sarah stared at him, searching for anything, that resembled the man she once trusted. But there was nothing there. Just distance. Is she waiting for you? She asked. He didn't answer. That silence confirmed everything. She picked up the suitcase. When did I become nothing to you? She asked. David paused at the door, his hand resting on the handle. You were never nothing, he said. A flicker of something passed through her eyes, hope, maybe. Then he added. You were just convenient. The door opened. Cold air rushed in. And then it closed. The sound was final. Sarah stood there, unmoving. The rain outside had turned heavy now, relentless against the roof, the windows, the world. She didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, she walked slowly to the front door, opened it, and stepped outside. The rain soaked through her clothes instantly, but she didn't flinch. Her car sat at the curb. The same car she had driven 1,000 times without thinking. Tonight, it looked different. Like a destination. She placed the suitcase in the back seat, then got in, closing the door behind her. The sound of the rain softened, replaced by the quiet hum of the enclosed space. For a moment, she just sat there. Hands on the steering wheel. Eyes forward. No plan. No direction. Only the weight of what had just happened. Her reflection stared back at her from the dark windshield, faint, distorted by the rain. Okay, she whispered. Her voice sounded unfamiliar. Okay. She leaned her head back against the seat and closed her eyes. Not to escape. But to hold herself together. Outside, the world continued as if nothing had changed. Inside, everything had. After a long moment, she reached forward and adjusted the seat, pushing it back as far as it would go. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't home. But it was something. She pulled her coat tighter around herself and stared at the ceiling of the car. How do you start over, she murmured softly, when you don't have anything left? The question hung in the quiet. No answer came. Only the steady rhythm of rain, and the beginning of a life she hadn't chosen, but would have to face. Morning didn't arrive gently. It broke through the car window in a harsh line of light, cutting across Sarah's face and pulling her out of a shallow, restless sleep. Her neck ached. Her hands were stiff from the cold. For a moment, she didn't move. She just stared at the windshield, still dotted with dried raindrops from the night before. Then reality returned, quiet, heavy, undeniable. She sat up slowly and glanced around. Same street. Same parked cars. Same life continuing without her. Her stomach tightened. Not from emotion this time. From hunger. By noon, she had spent the last of the cash in her wallet on coffee and a cheap sandwich. It wasn't enough, but it kept her moving. Sitting still felt dangerous, like if she stopped, everything would collapse at once. The first place she walked into had a "Help Wanted" sign taped unevenly on the door. A diner. Warm, crowded, loud. Perfect. A woman behind the counter looked up as Sarah approached. "You here to eat or work?" she asked bluntly. Sarah hesitated for half a second. "Work." The woman studied her, quick, sharp. "Experience?" "No," Sarah admitted. "Then why should I hire you?" "Because I have no choice." The answer stayed in her head. "Instead," she said, "because I'll show up." The woman raised an eyebrow. "That's your selling point?" "It's a start." A pause. Then the woman shrugged. "Name's Carla. You start tomorrow. Don't be late." The shifts were long. Feet aching. Hands moving constantly. Orders shouted, plates carried, tables cleared. The rhythm was fast, unforgiving. Mistakes weren't corrected, they were pointed out loudly and immediately. "Table 4's been waiting 5 minutes. Order's wrong. Move faster." Sarah absorbed it all. She didn't argue. Didn't complain. She just worked. At night, she returned to the car. The temperature dropped quickly after sunset. She learned to layer everything she had: shirts, jackets, anything to keep the cold from settling in. Sleep came in fragments, interrupted by passing headlights, distant sirens, and the constant discomfort of a life reduced to survival. Days blurred. Morning, wake up stiff. Afternoon, serve, clean, repeat. Night, sit alone. No calls. No messages. No one asking where she was. A week later, the manager called her into the back. "You're slow," he said, flipping through a small notepad. "I'm improving." "You drop things. Less than before." "You don't smile enough." That one caught her off guard. Customers don't want quiet. They want pleasant." Sarah nodded. "I'll fix that." He studied her for a moment, then shrugged. "You're still here. That counts for something." She walked out of the diner that evening with sore legs and a small envelope in her hand. Her first pay. It wasn't much. But it was hers. She sat in the car, opened it carefully, and counted the bills twice. Not out of disbelief, just to feel the reality of it. "This is enough to move forward," she whispered. Even if it was only a step. A few days later, she found a shared apartment, cheap, cramped, temporary. 2 other women lived there. They barely spoke beyond polite greetings. It wasn't comfort. But it had walls. A door. A place to sleep without fear of being noticed. The routine settled again. Work. Return. Sleep. Repeat. But something inside her had shifted. Not healed. Not resolved. Just sharper. One night, near closing, a group of customers lingered at a corner table. They were dressed differently, clean, structured, confident. Their voices carried a tone Sarah hadn't heard in a while. Authority. She moved around them quietly, refilling glasses, clearing plates, unnoticed. Until one of them spoke louder than the rest. "This whole operation is inefficient," he said, tapping the table. "You're losing money by the minute." Another replied, "We're restructuring next quarter." Sarah slowed slightly, listening without appearing to. "Then you need someone who understands systems," the first man continued. "Not just numbers. Systems." The word stayed with her. Later that night, after her shift, she stood outside the diner, replaying the conversation. Not the exact words. The structure of it. The way they spoke, decisive, certain, informed. "They're not guessing," she murmured. They were analyzing. Understanding. Solving. The next evening, she noticed something else. A stack of old papers left near the back office. Schedules. Inventory sheets. Notes. Disorganized. Messy. Inefficient. She stared at them for a long moment. Then picked them up. That night, in the apartment, she spread everything across the small table. Columns didn't align. Numbers didn't match. Patterns were hidden under clutter. She began reorganizing. Not perfectly. But logically. One page at a time. Hours passed without her noticing. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't thinking about survival. She was thinking about structure. The next day, she approached Carla. "I think I can fix something," Sarah said. Carla looked up from the register. "Fix what?" "The scheduling. Inventory. It's costing time." Carla crossed her arms. "You been here, what, 2 weeks? 3. And now you're an expert?" "No," Sarah said calmly. "But I'm observant." A pause. Carla studied her again, longer this time. "Show me." Sarah laid out the pages. Explained simply. No big claims. Just clear adjustments. Carla didn't interrupt. Didn't react. Just listened. When Sarah finished, the silence stretched. Then Carla leaned back. "You actually did this yourself?" "Yes." Carla nodded slowly. "Try it for a week." It wasn't a promotion. It wasn't even official. But it was something else. A chance. Over the next few days, Sarah applied the changes. Small shifts. Better flow. Less confusion. The difference showed quickly. Orders moved faster. Fewer mistakes. Less stress. One afternoon, Carla pulled her aside. "What you did, it's working." Sarah didn't smile. She just nodded. "I can do more." Carla tilted her head slightly. "Careful." "Why?" "Because once you show people what you can do, they expect it every time." Sarah held her gaze. "I expect it from myself." That night, back in her room, she opened a small notebook she had bought with part of her pay. Blank pages. No structure. No limits. She wrote one sentence. Slowly. Clearly. "I will not stay where I am." She looked at it for a long moment. Then closed the notebook. Outside, the city moved without noticing her. Cars passed. Lights flickered. Lives continued. But something had changed. Not in the world. In her. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was paying attention. And for the first time since that night in the rain, she wasn't invisible to herself. The change didn't announce itself. It arrived quietly, somewhere between a rewritten schedule and a smoother shift at the diner. Fewer mistakes. Shorter wait times. Less tension in the air. Customers didn't notice the system, but they felt it. Orders came out right. Tables turned faster. The place breathed easier. Carla noticed. She stood at the counter one afternoon, arms folded, watching the room move with a rhythm it hadn't had before. "You did this," she said without looking at Sarah. Sarah wiped down a table. "I adjusted a few things." Carla glanced at her. "Don't downplay it." "I'm not." A pause. Carla leaned closer. "You've been wasted here." Sarah didn't respond immediately. She finished wiping the table, then set the cloth aside. "I needed somewhere to start," she said. Carla nodded slowly. "Fair enough." The next opportunity didn't come from luck. It came from attention. A regular customer, Mr. Hargrove, sat in the corner booth every Thursday. Same order. Same quiet demeanor. He worked on his laptop between bites, rarely looking up. Most staff left him alone. Sarah didn't. Not in conversation. In observation. His table was always cluttered, papers, notes, scattered files. Disorganized in a way that didn't match the precision of his demeanor. One evening, as she cleared his plate, a folder slipped and fell open. Documents spilled slightly across the table. "Sorry," she said, reaching to gather them. He waved a hand. "It's fine." But Sarah paused. The pages weren't random. They were connected, just poorly arranged. She hesitated, then spoke carefully. "You're tracking multiple projects, but your categories overlap," she said. He looked up for the first time. "What?" She met his gaze, steady but respectful. "You're repeating information across files. It's slowing you down." Silence. Then he leaned back slightly. "You got all that from a glance?" "I've been working with systems," she replied. "Different scale, but same idea." He studied her for a moment, as if recalibrating something in his mind. "What's your name?" "Sarah." "Hargrove," he said. "What exactly do you do, Sarah?" "I fix inefficiencies." A faint smile touched his lips. "That's a bold claim." "It's a simple one." Another pause. Then he closed his laptop slowly. "Sit," he said. She hesitated. "I'm on shift." "I'll speak to your manager." Carla was already watching. She gave a small nod. Sarah sat across from him, posture straight, hands folded lightly. "Show me," he said, sliding the papers toward her. She didn't rush. She looked through them carefully, scanning, organizing mentally before touching anything. Then she began moving pages, grouping, aligning, simplifying. "Your structure is strong," she said. "But your execution is scattered." He watched without interrupting. "You're tracking progress in multiple places. Consolidate it. One system. Clear categories." She finished and slid the stack back. Hargrove leaned forward, examining the changes. A minute passed. Then another. Finally, he looked up. "This saves me hours," he said. Sarah nodded. "It scales." He closed the folder. "Come by my office tomorrow. I have work." "You won't always," he replied. 10 a.m. That night, Sarah didn't sleep immediately. Not because of fear. Because of possibility. The notebook lay open on her bed. She added a second line beneath the first. "I will take every chance I earn." The office was smaller than she expected. Functional. Clean. Efficient, except for the same scattered patterns she had seen at the diner. Hargrove gestured to a desk. "Start there. No instructions. No supervision. Just trust, or curiosity." She worked through the morning. Reorganizing files. Streamlining processes. Eliminating redundancy. Every change had a reason. Every adjustment built toward clarity. Hargrove watched from a distance, saying little. At noon, he approached. "You've done this before," he said. "Not like this." "Then how?" She paused. "I pay attention." He nodded slowly. "That might be more valuable than experience." By the end of the week, he offered her a part-time role. Not formal. Not permanent. But paid. Better than the diner. Balancing both jobs wasn't easy. Days stretched longer. Nights shorter. But exhaustion felt different when it carried direction. The learning curve was steep. New terminology. New expectations. New pressure. But Sarah didn't retreat. She adapted. One afternoon, Hargrove challenged her directly. "You hesitate," he said. "Where?" "When decisions require risk." She considered that. "I calculate before I act." That's not the same as hesitation, he replied. But it can become it. She met his gaze. And what do you suggest? Trust your judgment sooner. A beat. You're not guessing, he added. You're analyzing. The shift came gradually. Faster decisions. Stronger presence. Clearer communication. At the diner, Carla noticed. You're different, she said one evening. Better or worse? Sharper, Carla replied. Like you're not just reacting anymore. Sarah leaned against the counter. I'm building something. Carla nodded. Then don't stay here too long. Weeks turned into months. The part-time role expanded. More responsibility. More trust. More income. The apartment changed too. Not bigger. But lighter. Less temporary. More intentional. One evening, Sarah sat by the window, scrolling through her phone. A headline caught her attention. A business article. A familiar name. David Mitchell. She froze for a moment. The photo showed him at a conference, confident, composed, unchanged. The caption praised his company's growth. She read the article once. Then again. Carefully. Not emotionally. Analytically. There were inconsistencies. Subtle, but present. Overextension. Aggressive expansion. Unstable patterns beneath polished success. She set the phone down. Her reflection stared back at her from the dark glass. Different now. Not broken. Not lost. Focused. Interesting, she murmured. Not pain. Not anger. Just recognition. The next morning, she handed Carla her notice. Already? Carla asked. It's time. Carla studied her, then smiled faintly. I figured. Sarah extended her hand. Carla shook it firmly. Don't come back. Wasn't planning to. Good. As Sarah walked out of the diner for the last time, the air felt different. Not lighter. Clearer. She didn't look back. That afternoon, Hargrove called her into his office. I have a proposition, he said. She sat, attentive. A position in a larger firm. Entry level, but with growth. She didn't answer immediately. What's the catch? No catch, he said. Just expectation. Of what? That you perform exactly as you have here. Sarah leaned back slightly. 10 months ago, she had slept in her car. Now, she was being offered a path forward. Not guaranteed. But real. I'll take it, she said. That evening, she packed her belongings again. But this time, the suitcase felt different. Not an ending. A transition. Her destination was clear. New York. As the bus pulled away, she looked out the window, watching the city fade behind her. No regret. No hesitation. Just movement. She opened her notebook one more time. Added a third line. I am not starting over. I am starting stronger. The road stretched ahead. Uncertain. Demanding. But hers. And for the first time. She wasn't running from something. She was moving toward it. The city didn't welcome her. It tested her. New York moved fast, faster than anything Sarah had known. People didn't slow down, didn't wait, didn't notice hesitation. If you paused, you were replaced. If you doubted, you disappeared. Her first week felt like trying to breathe underwater. The firm's office was on the 23rd floor, glass walls, sharp edges, quiet intensity. Conversations were precise. Movements efficient. Everyone seemed to know exactly where they belonged. Sarah didn't. Not yet. Mitchell? She turned. A man in a dark suit stood by the conference room door, flipping through a tablet. "That's me," she said. "I'm Eric," he replied. "You'll be assisting on logistics analysis. Sit in. Don't speak unless asked." She nodded once. Understood. The meeting moved quickly. Numbers. Projections. Deadlines. Sarah listened. Not passively, carefully. She tracked patterns. Noted gaps. Watched how decisions formed, not just what was said, but what was ignored. Halfway through, a chart appeared on the screen. Revenue fluctuations. Unstable. No one addressed the inconsistency. They moved on. Sarah's eyes stayed on the graph. Something didn't align. After the meeting, Eric gathered his files. "You were quiet," he said. "You told me to be." "And?" She hesitated, then spoke. "The third quarter data, there's a reporting overlap." He stopped. "What do you mean?" "The spike isn't growth," she said. "It's duplication. Two departments logging the same output." Eric studied her, measuring the statement. "You're sure?" "Yes." A pause. "Show me." They stood at his desk, screens open, numbers pulled apart line by line. Sarah didn't rush. She explained each step, clear, direct. Eric leaned closer. Then leaned back. "You're right." No surprise in his voice. Just acknowledgement. He turned to her. "Why didn't you say something in the meeting?" "You told me not to." A flicker of something, respect, maybe, crossed his face. "Next time," he said, "use judgment." That was the first shift. Small. But real. The days grew longer. Assignments increased. Expectations sharpened. Sarah adapted quickly, but not without pressure. Mistakes still happened. Not large ones. But enough. One afternoon, Eric called her into his office. "You're accurate," he said, closing the door. "But you're cautious." She stood straight. "I prefer precision." "So do I," he replied. "But this isn't a classroom. Decisions don't wait for perfect conditions." She met his gaze. "Then I'll move faster." "Not faster," he corrected. "Stronger." A beat. "Confidence isn't noise," he added. "It's clarity." That stayed with her. Weeks passed. Sarah began speaking more in meetings. Not often. But when she did, people listened. Because she didn't fill space. She added value. One morning, a senior executive challenged her directly. "You're new," he said. "Why should we rely on your analysis?" The room went still. Eyes shifted toward her. Sarah didn't look away. "You shouldn't," she said calmly. A slight murmur. She continued. "You should rely on the accuracy of the data. If I'm wrong, challenge it. If I'm right, use it." Silence. Then the executive nodded once. "Fair." After the meeting, Eric approached her. That was risky. It was honest. He considered that. Then gave a small nod. "Keep it that way." Outside the office, the city blurred into routine. Subway rides. Late nights. Early mornings. Her apartment was small, barely more than a room, but it was hers. Every item inside had purpose. Nothing extra. Nothing wasted. Like her time. One evening, she sat at the small desk by the window, reviewing notes. Her phone buzzed. A message from Hargrove. "You've adjusted well. Don't plateau." She read it twice. Then replied. "I won't." The firm assigned her a new project. Larger. More visible. Higher stakes. The client's operations were failing. Delays. Miscommunication. Financial loss. The team had been working on it for weeks. No resolution. In the conference room, voices overlapped. We've tried restructuring. It's not the structure. It's execution. No, it's leadership. Sarah listened. Then spoke. It's alignment. The room quieted. Eric glanced at her. Explain. She stood, moving to the screen. Each department is optimizing independently, she said. But they're not coordinated. Efficiency in isolation creates conflict in execution. She pulled up a diagram, simple, clear. You don't need better systems, she continued. You need unified direction. A pause. Then. Centralize decision-making. Reduce overlap. Define accountability. Silence. Then the client leaned forward. Can you implement this? Sarah met his gaze. Yes. The next weeks were intense. Long hours. Constant adjustments. Resistance from teams unwilling to change. One manager pushed back. This disrupts everything, he argued. It corrects everything, Sarah replied. You're asking us to rebuild from scratch. No, she said calmly. I'm asking you to rebuild correctly. Gradually, the system shifted. Processes aligned. Communication improved. Losses stabilized. Then reversed. The results spoke. Clearly. Undeniably. At the final review, the client shook her hand. You saved this operation. Sarah didn't smile widely. Just a small nod. It was a team effort. But she knew the truth. She had led it. Back at the firm, Eric called her in again. You've moved past entry level, he said. She didn't react immediately. What does that mean? It means you're no longer proving you belong, he replied. You're proving you lead. That night, Sarah stood by her window, looking out at the city lights. Not overwhelmed. Not uncertain. Present. Her phone lit up again. A news alert. A familiar name. David Mitchell. She opened the article. His company was expanding aggressively. New contracts. Rapid growth. On the surface, success. But Sarah read deeper. Numbers. Trends. Patterns. There it was. Subtle. Hidden. But clear. Overextension. Unstable scaling. Risk masked as confidence. She set the phone down slowly. No emotion rushed in. No anger. No pain. Just understanding. Still the same, she murmured. The difference now. She wasn't part of his world. She was analyzing it. Sarah returned to her desk and opened her notebook. 3 lines already written. She added a fourth. I don't chase power. I build it. She closed the notebook and looked out at the city again. This time, not as someone trying to survive it, but as someone shaping her place within it. And somewhere in that vast network of glass towers and quiet decisions, her path was no longer uncertain. It was forming. Steady. Deliberate. Unstoppable. The first time Sarah saw the numbers, she didn't react. She studied them. Quietly. Carefully. Without emotion clouding the pattern unfolding in front of her. David's company, once stable, steadily growing, was stretching beyond its limits. Contracts expanding faster than infrastructure. Expenses rising without corresponding control. Margins tightening beneath the surface of polished reports. On paper, it looked ambitious. In reality, it was fragile. She leaned back in her chair, fingers resting lightly against the edge of her desk. Overconfidence, she murmured. Not failure. Not yet. But heading there. Eric stepped into her office without knocking. You've been staring at that file for 20 minutes, he said. Should I be concerned? Sarah didn't look up immediately. No. Then what is it? She turned the screen toward him. Mitchell Logistics. He glanced briefly. Mid-tier firm. Expanding fast. Too fast. He looked again, this time with focus. Walk me through it. She did. Point by point. No assumptions. No exaggeration. Just facts aligned in a way that revealed the truth beneath the surface. Eric listened without interruption. When she finished, he exhaled slowly. That's a problem. Yes. For them, he added. Sarah held his gaze. For whoever doesn't act first. He studied her for a moment. You're thinking of moving on this. I'm thinking of opportunity. That's not the same thing. It can be. A pause. Eric leaned against the desk. You have a connection? No. That was technically true. She had something else. Understanding. Then what's the angle, he asked. Sarah turned back to the screen. Acquisition. He let out a short breath. That's not a small move. I'm aware. You'd need capital. Influence. Timing. Yes. And risk. She nodded once. Always. Eric crossed his arms. Why this company? Sarah's answer came without hesitation. Because I know exactly where it will break. That was the beginning. Not a decision. A direction. The next weeks unfolded with precision. Sarah didn't rush. She built. Quietly. She started with research. Digging deeper into financial structures. Ownership distribution. Hidden liabilities. Weak points masked by surface growth. Each detail added clarity. Each pattern confirmed her instinct. Then came the conversations. Careful. Strategic. Limited. She reached out to investors, not with emotion, not with history, but with data. Clear projections. Calculated risks. Defined outcomes. One meeting stood out. A conference room overlooking the city. Glass walls. Minimal distractions. Across the table sat a man named Caldwell, sharp, experienced, cautious. You're asking for significant backing, he said, flipping through her proposal. I'm offering significant return, Sarah replied. He glanced up. Based on a failing structure. Based on a correctable one. He leaned back. And you're certain you can correct it? Yes. Confidence or evidence? Both. He studied her in silence. Then tapped the document. You've identified the weaknesses clearly, he said. But you haven't explained why you. Sarah met his gaze. Because I don't underestimate problems. A pause. And I don't ignore them once I see them. Caldwell's expression didn't change. But something shifted. Let's say I'm interested, he said. What's your timeline? 3 phases, she replied. Entry. Influence. Control. And you believe you can reach control? I believe the structure will allow it. He closed the folder. I'll consider it. That was enough. For now. Step by step, the pieces aligned. Minor shares acquired through intermediaries. Partnerships formed quietly. Positions established without drawing attention. David remained unaware. Still expanding. Still confident. Still blind to the pressure building beneath his foundation. Sarah watched it all unfold from a distance. Not as his past. But as a strategist. One evening, Eric joined her as she reviewed the latest updates. "You're close," he said. "Not yet. Closer than you think." She nodded slightly. "That's when mistakes happen." He studied her. "You're not doing this for revenge." It wasn't a question. "No," she said. "Good." A pause. "Because revenge is emotional," he added. "This requires control." Weeks later, the shift came. Sudden. Predictable. A major contract collapsed. Not publicly. But internally, it hit hard. Cash flow tightened. Pressure increased. Sarah saw it immediately. "This is it," she said. Eric looked over. "You're sure?" "Yes." The final phase moved quickly. Decisively. Caldwell called her late one evening. "We're in," he said. Full backing. Sarah closed her eyes briefly. Not in relief. In focus. "Then we move now." The acquisition process began. Legal teams. Financial restructuring. Negotiations. David resisted at first. Of course he did. But resistance without leverage doesn't last. The numbers spoke louder than confidence. The structure demanded change. And Sarah was ready to provide it. The final meeting was scheduled. Board approval required. Terms finalized. The night before, Sarah sat alone in her office. The city stretched out before her, lights endless, movement constant. She wasn't thinking about the past. Not directly. But a memory surfaced anyway. Rain. A suitcase. A door closing. She let it pass. Didn't hold on to it. Didn't push it away. Just acknowledged it. Then she opened her notebook. 4 lines already written. She added a 5th. "I don't return to where I was. I redefine it." The next morning, she signed the final document. Her name at the top. Clear. Undeniable. Mitchell Logistics. Under new ownership. Sarah set the pen down. No dramatic reaction. No visible shift. Just a quiet, controlled breath. Eric stood across from her. "It's done," he said. "Yes." He watched her for a moment. "How does it feel?" She considered the question. Then answered simply. "Accurate." Outside, the city moved as it always had. Unaware. Unchanged. But inside that structure, inside that company, everything had shifted. And for the first time in 10 years. Sarah wasn't reacting to what had been taken from her. She was defining what came next.